Kerr. We now welcome back CBS Sports NBA analyst John Gonzalez. John, Ant-Man, Batman, Superman, Wolves in 5 yet again. Minnesota putting together a complete game despite Anthony Edwards' 7 turnovers. They still come away with a decisive win, sending Golden State home. How was Minnesota able to get it done?
Yeah, 7 turnovers. They were all sloppy with the ball. It wasn't just Ant. Both teams were sloppy with the ball. He definitely was, though. But he also had a playoff career high 12 assists. Kind of a quiet scoring night for him when he only has 22 points, but he was really good distributing the ball. How did they win this series? How did they win tonight's game? You have to look at Julius Randle. He has been fantastic in the postseason. I'm somebody who was extremely critical of Julius Randle when they traded for him. It was for fiduciary reasons. I thought that he was sort of a black hole on offense, that it was an over dribbler. Ball goes in, ball doesn't come out. Well, after the All-Star break, he really changed how he played, and he has been excellent for them since then, being more of a distributor. Scores, obviously, when they need him to. He had 29 points tonight, but 8 and 5 rebounds and assists. He's really been a complete player for them. They were up 25 in this game. Yeah, it got a little dicey, a little squirrely in the fourth quarter where Steve Kerr went to that bench lineup, that bench unit where Moses Moody came off the bench, gave him a little bit of a boost. But on the whole, the Wolves really had control of this game. And, you know, it's really tough. If you're the Wolves, you're looking for offense. You're looking around without Steph Curry, and you're like, who's going to give us offense? Tonight they got a playoff career high 28 points from Brandon Pajemski, but just not enough offense, not enough good players out there without Steph Curry. And, yeah, the Wolves were the better team. Wolves in 5.
Wolves in 5 indeed. Minnesota getting back to the conference finals for the 2nd year in a row, and they're doing it with the majority of the core of their squad from last season and with a healthy Chris Finch, who was hampered with a knee injury that limited his coaching last postseason. So what else about this Timberwolves team gives you confidence for their next round?
Yeah, I forgot about the Chris Finch injury. He's actually out there coaching. Yeah, I mean, look, they're just playing really good basketball right now, right? In the first round, everybody was on the Lakers, me included. They end up beating the Lakers in 5, and Ant is out in L.A. where I live, and he was crowing and talking about nobody believed in us, and that tends to be a cliche, but in this instance, it was absolutely true. Second round, not everybody was on Golden State. I actually picked the Wolves in this, but I picked them in 7 games, and they didn't need that many. And a lot of that obviously has to do with Steph Curry not being around. But the Wolves are playing, even with Steph Curry out there, I think that the Wolves would have won this series because the Wolves are playing really good, consistent basketball. All 5 starters in double figures tonight. Then off the bench, Naz Reid, Dante DiVincenzo, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker have been fantastic for them. They're just a really good team at both ends of the floor. I have confidence in them because they've got redundancy on offense and defense. I mean, you saw that's a really good Golden State Warriors defensive team. Even without Steph Curry, obviously Steph isn't exactly a defensive stalwart, but the Wolves carved him up offensively, and then defensively they are really excellent at that end of the floor. So whoever they end up facing in the conference finals, their 2nd straight conference finals, Madeline, whether it's Oklahoma City or the Nuggets, those teams are going to be looking at the Wolves as a big-time challenge.
Absolutely. Minnesota heading to their 2nd straight conference finals. The Warriors heading home, though. Dubs dropping 4 straight playoff games for the first time under head coach Steve Kerr. And now Golden State entering yet another offseason with many of the typical questions about their aging core. But now they've also got a new superstar locked down for the next 2 years in Jimmy Butler. So, John, what should the Warriors' biggest offseason focus be?
Yeah, you're probably tinkering on the margins. I mean, your core of Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green and Steph Curry is your core. It's aging, no doubt about it. But the returns on what they looked like when they traded for Jimmy Butler were really positive, right? I mean, once they got Jimmy Butler, they became the #1 defense in the NBA. They were #1 in forcing turnovers, #1 in points off of turnovers. He unlocks so many things. The problem is when you don't have Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler helps Steph Curry out, but Steph Curry helps everybody out, right? So you're asking a lot of Jimmy Butler without Steph. So next year, ostensibly a healthy Jimmy Butler, a healthy Steph Curry, a healthy Draymond Green. Injuries can always pop up, but that's your core group, and you're going to keep that together. Now, they do have questions about Jonathan Kuminga, who was basically a DNP-CD for much of the playoffs until Steph Curry went down. Irony of ironies, Steph goes down. Jonathan Kuminga might have been their most consistent offensive player. In tonight's loss, he had 26 points. He looked pretty good. Maybe they dangle him in a trade because he really didn't fit into the Warriors' plans when Jimmy, Draymond, and Steph were out there because it creates some spacing issues. But that might be a player that they look to move on from as a restricted free agent. But on the whole, I would expect that it would just be tinkering on the margins for them.
Lots of questions remain for Golden State as they head into the offseason. And the Minnesota Timberwolves head into the Western Conference Finals. John Gonzalez, thanks as always for the insight. For more NBA coverage on a daily basis, join John Gonzalez, Bill Ryder, and guest Eastern Conference Finals appearance since 2000. But they'll have to try again Friday night at Madison Square Garden for Game 6. As we take a look at this stat line right here, Jaylen Brown quite the night in the absence of his teammate Jason Tatum. But in terms of games with 25 points, 8 rebounds, and 12 assists or more, that's quite a stat line right here, joining Larry Bird, Rajon Rondo, and John Havlicek. Plus, the 12 assists were a playoff career high for Jaylen Brown on Wednesday's Game 5. For more on this one, we now welcome in CBS Sports NBA analyst John Gonzalez. John, first of all, Celtics live to fight another day. We knew the emotions would be high with Tatum out, of course, suffering the ruptured Achilles on Monday. But everyone stepped up in this Boston three party. The three was falling for Boston. Jaylen Brown, a career high in assists. Luke Cornett putting on a block party. How did the Celtics pull it together and get the Game 5 win?
Yeah, it was always going to be difficult for the Knicks to win 3 on the road in Boston's building, right? And the Celtics, I think, a little bit of pride. You're the defending champions. You just lost your guy, Jason Tatum. You don't want to go down without a fight. And they put up a great fight tonight. And we saw this is more like it from the defending champs, right? Remember in Game 1 when they put up 63s and they only hit 15 of them and everybody went, oh, man, this is a terrible idea. Well, they put up 49 tonight and they made 45%. This is how they play basketball. Get up as many threes as you can possibly put up. Now, without Jason Tatum this year, it's not great not to have Jason Tatum, but they're all of a sudden 10-2 without him. So got a little bit of life. You knew that Jaylen Brown was going to have to step forward. As you mentioned, he had a playoff career high 12 assists. He looked really good. He also had 26 points and 8 rebounds. And then Derek White, he put up 34. His 3 was falling. He can be a little streaky. He hit 7 tonight, though. And then you mentioned Luke Cornett. So, yeah, they started 2 bigs tonight, double big of Al Horford and Kristaps Porzingis. Kristaps Porzingis has something going on with him illness-wise that you and I were sort of joking about off camera that's rendered him DNP not good. Well, here comes Luke Cornett off the bench. He has almost a double-double and 7 blocks, Madeline. He had 5 blocks total in the playoffs prior to this, total. And then he goes for 7 tonight. So, total team effort, really good win for the Celtics. They're still alive.
Total team effort indeed. But as you mentioned, too, the Celtics now, after this Game 5 win, improved to 11-2 without Jason Tatum this season. John, what changes about the way that this Celtics team plays without Tatum on the floor?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of everybody rallying, right? I mean, you know that he's your best guy. He's going to make first team All-NBA again this season. He's a top 5 player in the NBA, depending on, who's available for awards eligibility. And so you have to have everybody step up. Now, let's not forget, I mean, Jason Tatum is a fantastic player, but that Celtics team is outrageously deep. And what Brad Stevens did in building them was give himself some cushion, give himself some wiggle room, a little bit of redundancy there, right? You lose Jason Tatum, not the greatest thing in the world, but guess what? Here comes Jaylen Brown. Here comes Derek White. Jrue Holiday has not had a good offensive season this year, but he's still really good defensively, really good distributing the ball. What happens when Kristaps Porzingis is basically unplayable? Well, you still have Al Horford and then Luke Cornett off the bench. Oh, you need some more shooting. Here comes Peyton Pritchard. Sam Hauser comes back. I mean, they're a really good team. So, yeah, it's not great not to have Jason Tatum, but they're loaded.
Now, the formula for games this season has been the Celtics go up big, the Knicks claw their way back in and get the win late. This one, very different formula. The Knicks kind of had a lead early coming out of the first quarter. The game was tied at 59 at the half, but the third quarter, things went a very different way. Now, Knicks fans will point out Jalen Brunson had 5 fouls called on him in the third quarter alone, ends up fouling out of the game in the fourth, so not able to really stage that momentous comeback that we have seen him lead in previous game. But you know what? We still have 2 more chances to see the Knicks clinch their first conference finals berth since 2000. So, John, how confident are you that New York can wrap this series up back at the world's most famous arena in Game 6 Friday?
Yeah.
Xin chào tất cả các bạn. Chào mừng các bạn đã đến với kênh YouTube của mình. Ngày hôm nay mình sẽ hướng dẫn các bạn cách tô màu sao cho đẹp nhất nhé. Và bây giờ mình sẽ tô màu những sản phẩm. Các bạn hãy lắng xem hết video của mình để mình có động lực ra video nhiều hơn nhé. Mình cảm ơn các bạn. Và bây giờ mình cùng các bạn đi tô màu nhé.
Mình sẽ đi vào chi tiết từng món nha.
Và thà như là Việt Nam là làm thì cái thùng xốp và mua ta cái sang ngày còn tuyết thì nó lấy nào thì lấy cái to thì ôi để chán chán thấy người thấy tiền cấm rồi tôi mua phải đặt qua mặc quà không lấy quà hay vẫn mặc biển mà